Hello, I'm leaving that yep in. Hello, everybody. It's James here. Ask Dutch Anything, and it's episode 56. We're going to do the quick version of the plugs as we always do for ADA. So, Pro Wrestling Tees. Go visit, because I'm still wearing that T-shirt from Pro Wrestling Tees that you can buy yourself. It comes in this sandy colour.
Beautiful T-shirt.
And a blue as well. I know that my sister drew this as well, I'll have you know. Right, so Pro Wrestling Tees, of course, Facebook, Storytime with Dutch Mantell. It's there. The links are in the description, as they are for everything. Books, I've got 2. Dutch has got 2. If you want Dutch's signed ones, Dirty Dutch Mantell with 2 L's at gmail.com. Same for the diplomas, same for the hats as well, that he has a couple left over. The Stevie Richards show is out every single Friday. So, follow us on YouTube, please. We're getting a good couple of 100, 300 or whatever it is subscribers a day, so we're still building well. And the most important thing to say is questionsfordutch@gmail.com. If you want your question answered by Dutch, or at least make it into the script, then make sure it's a good question, and 2, I don't know, make it and email that email, I guess, because it's not ever going to make it in the script if you send it anywhere else. So on that basis, this was a holdover from last week that we didn't get to, from Delvin, and he says, "Hey Dutch, I came across a video of a wrestler named Dirty Rhodes. Were you familiar with him? And if so, what were your thoughts about him amongst yourself and the other wrestlers? Thanks."
You know, I read this question earlier, and Dirty Rhodes, he's an old-time wrestler, and he used to have another name. I cannot, for the life of me, think of his name now. And he bumped around for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, and he ended up, what they found out he could do, when he put a mask on, he looked just like Jody Hamilton from the Assassins. Looked just like him. You couldn't tell them apart. So I think they did a deal with him. I think Jody went to Florida, and another assassin came in with a bounty on his head, and they did that, and that went along maybe 2 or 3 months, and then of course that ran its route. So, but he was a good guy as far as I know, and he ended up being a preacher, and he lived in West Virginia. And I think he is not an ordained minister, but he is a preacher that preaches. I think he still preaches at a church somewhere in West Virginia every Sunday, I think, unless that's changed.
Yeah, he's 75 years old. He was one of the interns, apparently, with Don Bass.
Maybe.
And his real name's Roger Smith.
Roger Smith. Thank you very much. Yeah. Known him a long time. I've known him almost since the second year I started.
What, in Georgia? Was he in Georgia with you?
Yeah, yep.
As an intern or as Roger Smith?
I'm trying to think. I don't think he's there as Roger Smith. Maybe been there as something else. I knew him as Roger Smith, so he must have been that.
Yeah, well, he's got tons of different names. Dirty Rhodes, of course, Roger Rhodes, Roger Mason, intern number 1, Flame, Buford Maddox, Super Assassin, and one of any number of assassins after that as well. Did you ever find out what Dusty Rhodes thought of Dirty Rhodes? Because was Dirty Rhodes a shot at Dusty after Dusty left and took half the Florida roster with him?
Hey, it could have been a shot at me. Dirty Rhodes, Dirty Dutch, get it?
Mm.
So, I don't think Dusty cared one way or the other. And when Dusty did leave Florida, I think it was 1984. I think he left Florida to go to Mid-Atlantic. He took everybody that meant anything, including himself, with him. He took everybody. I forgot who else he took, but he took Magnum TA, took him. He may have already been there.
Well, we know he took a lot of people. I should have a list for you at some point, I guess. Dirty Rhodes wasn't also the only person to be a Dusty Rhodes blatant ripoff, because there was also Dream Machine as well in Memphis.
Yeah, but Dream Machine could do Dusty. He would sound just like Dusty. He would go. He would do interviews, and very few people would make me stop and listen to their interview in Memphis but Dream Machine would. Dream Machine, he was a Memphis product, born and raised, and when he died, he said I'd be Memphis dead or something like that. But he would make a little bit of a rap out of it, and he was great. Jimmy Hart managed him, but later on, I don't know what happened to Dream Machine. I think he got maybe hooked on prescription drugs. And the last time I saw him was some show across the river in Memphis, and I think over there in Arkansas, and he was there, and he was really, really messed up. And I actually gave him some money. I said, "Are you okay?" "I'm fine, brother," but he would never tell me he was, short on anything anyway, just out of pride. And then he ended up, he died about a year later. But I think that if he hadn't I think Dusty said that he asked Dream Machine to leave and to leave Memphis, but he wouldn't leave. And the reason he wouldn't leave because I think he's either his mother or his grandmother was still there, and he had to take care of her or one of them. And that's why he didn't go. So he turned down some big money with Dusty to stay home and take care of his mother or his grandmother.
So there was actually going to be a feud between Dream Machine and Dusty.
Oh yeah, because have you ever heard Dream Machine talk?
Yeah. We spoke about Dream Machine a couple of times on this, but
he was, he did great interviews, and nobody wrote them. He just went out there and did them. So and he wore a mask. He was funny as hell, but and pretty good in the ring too. And Jimmy Hart, of course, Jimmy Hart was the magnet. If you were with Jimmy Hart, you had automatic heat because of him and the rivalry between Lawler, and because Lawler kind of started Jimmy Hart. What band did Jimmy Hart play in?
The Gentrys.
The Gentrys. And that was a pretty big group at one time. So, but let's play an interview from Dream Machine next week.
Why don't I play one now? I'll find one. One second.
Can you find one?
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll save that just for after this, because I also want to bring to your attention there is one other person, Bruce Pritchard, very briefly for WWF. He played a character called Rio Rogers, which was just a complete Dusty Rhodes ripoff. I don't suppose you ever saw Bruce do one of his Dusty impressions on or off camera.
I have, but Rio Rogers I didn't think it was a takeoff on Dusty. Wasn't he a preacher?
Well, I think he used the name Rio Rogers. I don't know if he stole that name from someone else, but it was a Dusty impression.
Okay, all right. Well, he did a great job. He did a very, very good job.
Here we go. Just 1 second. I found it. Dream Machine's jive routine. 1 sec. Right, recording again. Here we go.
Oh, Daddy, we're going to get on that big white bird. We're going to get on that big white bird and fly south. You know, you got to go south for that southern loving, but Memphis, Tennessee, moving, grooving, shucking, and jiving. Superstar, let's get it on. Let's get it on, baby. Okay, fine. There you go.
Let's see if there's another one. I'm sorry, I'm revealing that I've been listening to Michael Bolton's Soul
He does
Provider.
one. He calls me a dirty yellow dog.
Let's have a look. Dream Machine, Troy Graham. See if we can find a second one.
And dirty and.
That was you. You're second here. Here we go.
Yep.
Here is Jimmy Hart with the former holder of the AWA Southern Heavyweight Belt, the Dream Machine.
Don't you start talking, because I'm going to tell you something, Dutch Mantell. I want all of you people out there to be proud of your champion, Dutch Mantell. But the way you got that belt, boy, you didn't have enough guts. You know, when I went down there, I was burning up with fever, 102 fever, and he tried to get me. It's Jimmy Hart, my manager, tried to get me. He says, Dream Machine, don't you go down there to face him because you're not able. I said, but I'm going because the man that I am, with the power that I have in my body, and I went down there to get in that ring to face him eyeball to eyeball. And what did you do, Dutch Mantell? You did not have enough brass on your face to come out where the rats are supposed to come out. You had to run around the building and come in the front door. Now, why did you have to do that? Because I'll tell you why, boy.
Okay, let me just pause it there. So what happened with running around the front door then? What's the explanation?
No, I came in the other direction. I didn't come down my aisle. So they were looking for me to come straight out of the dressing room. I came from the front of the building and I attacked, but he had done that to me the week before. So I just turned the table on him. And that's why he said that, I came in the front. And I think he calls me a dirty yellow chicken.
Yeah, this video is called Mark of a Chicken. So I'm wondering, is this the one where he brings out a chicken? A man dressed as a chicken?
He brings out a chicken. And that was the mark. That was the mark of Memphis. Because they do these interviews, and the interviews were entertaining too.
You have to do that because I'll tell you why, boy. Because you're gutless and you're chicken, and there's no way come rain, sleet, hell, or snow that you can beat me because I did it all, brother. There's nothing in the world that I want to do, no place I want to go, and no place that I'm going back to. You understand what I'm saying? Because I don't
Dusty
care.
Loved it.
But Dutch Mantell, you're going to pay, baby. I'm going to be in your coffee. I'm going to be in your eggs and bacon. I'm going to be in your pancakes. I might even be... Oh, I don't even want to say where I might be, but I'm going to be there, brother, and I'm going to tell you, Dutch Mantell, you look at this face, and every face tells a story of pain, misery, and the blues, shucking, jiving, moving, and grooving. I did the barbed wire fence from hell and back, baby, and I've never feared any man that ever walked God's green earth, and I do not fear you. And Dutch Mantell, you are a chicken. I look up, and I see a hammer, I see a whip, and I'm knocked out, and I get up, and my manager tells me, he says, Dream, it's over. I say, how in the hell can it be over? And the bell ain't even rung, Dutch Mantell. But I'm looking at you, boy, and I'm going to be looking at
Jimmy
you for
Hart
a long
does
time
the
because
chicken
it'll never be
him.
over. And I got news for you, Bigfoot. I'm not scared of you, Turkey. I'm not scared of you, and I've never been scared of you. And I guarantee you, Jimmy, that I want him if it's any guts.
You need to bring back Jive Turkey as an insult.
If you get behind these people, if these people are behind you, if you are a true champion like I was, you'll come out here and take that belt and hand it to me right on the platter and say, Dream Machine, this is your belt, baby. This is yours, and I stole it like a thief in the night that I was. Hallelujah. I stole it. I want him out here, Jimmy. Tell me right now if he's got it. You saw it. You was down there hooping and hollering. I tell you why Lance Russell is not here, because he was drinking. He was down there hooping and hollering with the rest of them idiots. I'm fired up, baby. I'm wired tighter than a Gibson guitar on a Friday night. And Dutch Mantell, I want your meat, baby.
Dream. I got some.
We'll just get the Jimmy bit. I just want to see the chicken at the end. Here we go.
Look at it. Dirty Dutch Mantell back in the first family. Look at it. Come on, Dutch.
Who was in the chicken outfit, did you ever find out?
I forgot.
You wanted him, there he is, baby.
Not the mark of the devil, but the mark of the chicken. Now, Dutch Mantell, you take a look, boy, when you face your old lady, when you face them ugly kids you got, and you take a look at them and say, this is what you are, Dutch Mantell. This is what you are. This is what I'm going to do to you. I'm going to take you down, and I'm going to crush you, Dutch Mantell, and I'm going to look around, and I'm going to pull your eye, and I'm going to spit.
Only in Memphis.
Only in Memphis. Now, you can't tell me that is not entertaining.
Oh, no, it's hugely entertaining.
Oh, yeah. The chicken was squawking. And when you go by WWE interviews, that interview, is one of the classics.
That's better than anyone today.
Yes, it's good. Dream was good. Jimmy Hart was the best. And coming up with that, I was a chicken, and they bring out the chicken. See, everybody thought it was me, but it wasn't me. So, but anyway, that was some of my good memories from Memphis.
Let's move on then. Sam says, there's a YouTube video from 1983 from Japan showing Bruiser Brody and Stan Hansen wrestling Barry Windham and Southeast Territory owner Ron Fuller. So yep. Barry Windham said in an interview that Brody and Hansen worked Fuller over pretty hard during this Japanese tour. My question is, if Southeastern was doing great business in 1983, why would Fuller, a territory owner, subject himself to this? How would Dutch and his contemporaries view a territory owner wrestling like this? So I didn't really send you the video because the video's not that shocking. He just gets beat, really. Like, Brody and Hansen don't give him too much. But in that sense, why would Fuller go over to Japan in 1983 if he was already a territory owner, just a job?
Well, he was probably working a hurt angle. He wanted to disappear. Didn't want anybody to see him. So he would go over there 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and it was different. And they paid him pretty good, I'm sure. So he went over there, and I think he probably tried to make a deal with them to use some of their talent. And he knew when he worked with Brody and Hansen, it was going to be a physical contest. And, you know, Ron's a big guy. He's 6'10". He's 6'9". He's not really, he looks kind of slim, but he could take what they could dish out, and he probably dished it out back because they told him to. So that's probably what he did. And I never knew that he actually went over there. But when he went over there for, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks, it was a break for him to go somewhere and get out of, he lived in Pensacola, Florida, to get out of Pensacola, Florida and be gone for a while.
It's funny, I watched the match and Ron Fuller, he just gets beaten up. But also, I kept looking at him and thinking, God, he's long. He's just long and his limbs are long. He's like Fido Dido.
Hey, I used to work with him, and when he'd throw those punches, his arms are so long. Instead of hitting me on this side, they'd wrap around my head and hit me over here. I went, what the hell? But hey, he's a brilliant guy when it comes to booking, because he's not tied down. Oh, they're not doing enough wrestling. They're not doing enough this. Story. That's how these little territories used to run, is by story, totally. So, and he paid well, trips were short, and he would do what I would call a mini territory. Like Memphis was so big, Oklahoma was huge, Mid-Atlantic was huge, Florida was big. But sometimes he would say he based out of Knoxville. The longest trip would be 150 miles, 120 miles. And you were back home every night, which is almost like having a job and making good money. So he got booking from his father, the Buddy Welch of the Welch clan. He ended up being Buddy Fuller, but he was a Welch, and the Welch founded Tennessee, Alabama, and wrestling. They were the founders of it. He grew up in it and came around, and he had a great brain for the business. And Knoxville, when he had it, I think it was called Southeastern Championship Wrestling. Knoxville's not a big town. And I don't know if they ran it every week or every other week. And it had probably a 7,000 seat little coliseum. They was in there. They put 4,000 average in there. So they would do a pretty good house.
And then in 83, he went to get beaten up in Japan. And that was it. I've just looked. That was the only tour he ever did. So we will move on.
Maybe that was enough for him.
It sounds like it might well have been. Robert says, hi, Dutch and James. Loved the show. Both of you do a great job. Thank you. You have talked numerous times about Bruiser Brody. So once again, Brody, not selling for anyone. I've seen a Japanese tag team match between Bruiser and Stan Hansen versus Harley Race and Nick Bockwinkel, where it looked like Bruiser sold basically nothing unless Race made him. But I recently saw a match with Bruiser versus Dusty Rhodes, 1978 in Houston, where Bruiser sold almost everything Dusty gave and made Dusty look great. Do you think he did this out of respect for Dusty? Did he do it for the money? Again, great show. So why would Bruiser choose to sell for some people and then most other people he wouldn't at all?
Well, his bread and butter was Japan. That's why he's not going to sell for anybody over there unless he just has to. And he didn't have to sell for Harley or Nick Bockwinkel because Harley and Nick Bockwinkel were going back home. He was going to be coming back in about a month. And if they video this match, this is probably a match they played back on TV. And no, he didn't sell unless, Hardy made him sell, which I don't know how you can make Brody sell if he didn't want to. But then, since Japan was his bread and butter, and I heard at one point they were making like 20 grand a week. That's back in 1980s dollars. That's a lot of money. Totally a lot of money. And why did he sell in Houston? Because of Dusty? Because Paul Bosch paid well. Paul Bosch was probably, in the wrestling business at the time, everybody that ever worked for Paul Bosch said, without a doubt, he's the best payoff man in the business. Because promoters weren't trusted with gate totals. You couldn't trust them because nobody else saw it but them. But what Paul Bosch would do, he would put out a sheet. And I don't know if everybody got it, but I've seen some of those. They're like, I don't know, $50,000 or $60,000 houses back then. And the main event, if they were four, they'd get like $12,000 of that $60,000 house. That's a lot of money because he didn't hold back. If he lost money, I guess he would just rethink his main events. And I think he ran every 2 weeks, Houston, or it might have been every month, but always a good crowd in there, always. And I enjoyed working with Paul Bosch, good talker. And I think that everybody that ever met Paul Bosch came away thinking that he's a good guy.
With that being said, with Bruiser Brody selling or no selling or deciding whatever, you obviously were in Puerto Rico with him a decent amount, obviously, before he was killed. Did he do a lot of selling in Puerto Rico then? Did he, or would it all depend on, one, if it was televised, or two, if there were Japanese photographers present?
Well, if there were Japanese photographers present, he didn't sell nothing. Because back in those days, that was how I don't know how many video cameras they had. I never saw one, but I did see several Japanese photographers. Of course, they were tipped off by Brody where he was going to be. And they made the trip all the way from Japan to Puerto Rico. That's a long trip. So, and no, his whole deal was that Brody was unstoppable. And we've seen the match with Lex Luger, right? We've showed that here, right?
Yeah.
And he didn't sell nothing. And I have, even to this day, I've never understood his thinking on that at all. So, I mean, a guy going over the top of a cage, it's not like you getting pinned, but he just beat Lex up, and Lex couldn't do nothing. And it looked like Brody didn't even want to work with him, tell you the truth. And he just fluffed it off like, I don't care about this match. But why he didn't, he treated Japan totally different than he treated the United States.
Next question. This is got a few dark questions here today, really. Anyway, John says, do you agree with Jim Ross that Vince McMahon was right to continue the WWF Over the Edge pay-per-view after Owen Hart's death? What would Dutch have done in Vince McMahon's position?
Well, I read that question, and I'd have to say I don't know. I think leaving a pay-per-view with a man's death is the wrong way to, even though it's probably shows respect, it's the wrong way to leave a pay-per-view. I don't know what other matches they had to go, but I've never come up with an answer to that question. I don't know whether I would have stopped it or not. And he may not have been able to stop it. Once it's rolling, it's rolling. You either finish it by hell or high water, and I think they come back and redo that one. They did it again.
What's this?
The pay-per-view?
No, they never did Over the Edge again. They have never, best I can tell, they've never dropped anyone in a ring again like that anyway. They've never used a quick release snap shackle.
what were the matches following that, if they had any?
I know Jeff Jarrett's followed. I know there was like an 8-man tag that Mick Foley was involved. I think the main event was Austin and Undertaker. So there was, 3-4 matches. I think Val Venus was in one of the matches, maybe against Jeff Jarrett for all I know. I can't remember.
I don't know the buy rate on that, but Vince operated on money. And did they announce before that pay-per-view was over that Owen Hart had died?
Yes, they did, but only to the viewing audience, not the live audience.
Well, it's hard to say what I would have done, but if they had 4 or 5 matches left, now you run into another problem. Even though it's respectful to end it, but where does business come in on this? So it's hard to say. It really is.
My argument has always been, well, how did you know it was an accident? You can't know that for sure without an investigation. Someone could have pushed Owen off the top. For all you know, that is essentially a crime scene that you are contaminating with future matches. You know what I mean? I mean, obviously we know all the facts now, but at the time, I'd be like, well, you need to get everybody out of this building. You need a proper investigation. A man has just died. He has just fallen 80 feet or whatever. His aorta has been torn from his heart because he landed chest first on the turnbuckle and bled out internally.
Yep.
What is anyone doing thinking that it was appropriate to keep this match going? Regardless of whether you knew it was an accident or not, a guy's just died.
Oh, I'm agreeing with you. I'm not disagreeing with you. I don't know what I would have done. I can say that I am glad that I didn't have to make that decision.
I've got a follow-up for you that I don't know if I ever mentioned this to you before. Is the day after there was a tribute episode to Owen Hart, and it was known as Raw is Owen. It was one of the most important episodes of Raw ever. For they had straight matches, no hoo-ha, no funny business, and a lot of people paying tribute to Owen. Kevin Dunn, this is according to Vince Russo, actually fought with Vince Russo and said, I'm doing the Jim Cornette version of Kevin Dunn, but he actually said, let's not mention Owen Hart at all. Let's just do the Raw that we planned and just forget about Owen and just brush him off. And Vince Russo's version of the story, he said, if you do that, I quit right here and now. Mm-hmm. And they ended up going with the tribute show. But can you believe they weren't even going to mention that he died on the show?
Well, how could you even do that? How could Kevin Dunn even think about not even mentioning Owen Hart dying? Everybody knew it by that time. By the time Raw came on and they announced it. So you mean going on TV and not doing anything? That would have hurt WWE more than not stopping the show. I mean, guys, be a little sympathetic to Owen himself and to his family and to his fans. A man lost his life on your show, and you're going to do a whole new show without even mentioning him?
Mm-hmm. That was legitimately an option.
Is that what Vince was going to do?
Vince McMahon and Kevin Dunn were going to do that, or this was more spearheaded by Kevin Dunn, supposedly. Vince Russo will have to correct me on this if he ever does. Vince said, absolutely not, we have to pay tribute to Owen. So Russo...
Oh, yes, I agree with Vince Russo on this 100%. I really do. Did you see, and I saw the show.
Oh,
I started almost crying myself when I heard Jeff Jarrett come out there. And he couldn't hardly get it out. And I've learned one thing about Jeff over the years. When you touch him emotionally, he'll cry. He will literally cry in your face because I've seen him do it. And I really, really felt for Jeff that day, because when he and Owen were teamed up, Owen became a good friend, a close friend. And for him to, and even for Jeff to get in that ring after what had happened to Owen, oh man, that is beyond me. I don't know if I could even get in the ring.
Next question. Hopefully some more fun stories. How can it not be without the next question? Nick says, "Hey Dutch, was just wondering if you had any road stories about Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Did you ever wrestle or travel with him? Ho, thanks." I looked through the archives, right? I searched Jim Duggan. I don't think his name has ever come up on this show before. Or if it has, it's fleetingly.
Well, I think he had a deal with the Iron Sheik, right? In WWE?
Yeah,
in
they were
WWF.
both pulled over in like New Jersey Turnpike or something, and they were feuding at the time, and Iron Sheik had a bit of the A to Z gimmick, brother.
Well, they both had that. And I forgot what they told the cop. You know, they were feuding at the time, and I think they told him that, not the Sheik, but Duggan told the cop that he's picking the Iron Sheik's mind trying to find a weakness. And the cop said, "Yeah, you're right. He says, when he's they didn't admit to doing this, but he says, you never know what these guys up to. So if you never get a chance to pick their brains, go for it." So, and according to Jim, I don't know if it's true or not, he said the cop bought it, and I think he just wrote him a warning, slow down.
No, Iron Sheik had a bit of the old white powder on him as well, so that's when it escalated a bit. It wasn't just the weed. I think Sheik had a bit of extra on him, and that's where that's probably boozing bozos was apparently the headline that made the newspapers the next day. Vince McMahon fires them both, and he calls a meeting for the entire talent roster and said, "This business is bigger than a six-pack and a blowjob."
What a choice of words. Okay, if you just go for that, who was blowing who in that car? Duggan?
I imagine Hacksaw was driving, so it's probably, he was the recipient, I guess.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's got some stories. I just can't quite remember those stories right off because Jim was a good guy. Where did he play college football? You know?
I can find out. Are you going to be completely silent while I find out?
Well, I don't know where, but I think that's how Watts found him. Football player. And he played little pro ball too, I think.
New York State High School, and then he played football for Southern Methodist University, SMU.
SMU in Dallas. So, well, he was a good football player. I said I think he played a little pro ball. It didn't say anything about that. And Watts was what we say sometimes, he was queer for big guys. He loved those big guys. All his guys were big. I mean, Ted DiBiase, 6'4", Jake the Snake, 6'3", 6'4".
Oh, I'd say taller, Jake. I thought he was like 6'6". He's a lanky son.
He was tall, but he liked Duggan, Dr. Death. He liked him. He loved those big guys that could get in there, and I think he looked at them like fans will not go up to them and say this business is fake because they know these guys are big, they're tough, and they wouldn't want to be ripped apart by one of these guys. So I think, and Watts himself was a big guy. So, but he was always, and this is why I think size took precedence over like in-ring technique more than anything else. Because, and that's what the old WWF back in the days of Vince McMahon's father, Vince McMahon Sr., that's what they used to use, those really big guys, because Bruno wasn't tall, but he was big and strong. So we'd have to have all these bigger than life heels come in and challenge Bruno for the title. And that's how they run that territory for 8 years. They would just find them a big romping, stomping heel, and he'd come in there and, he would do something to Bruno and go after the title. And then they'd take it once or twice to Madison Square Garden, and they'd be done with it. I think Watts was one of the few that got a return date with with Bruno after the first encounter.
Mm-hmm. He was only in the business a couple of years as well, so he was pretty much a sensation when he was young.
But he went to Vince Sr. because he was thinking like a promoter. He said, you need to bring that back, or he may have told him this before the match started. So they worked it, and they sold out both times.
Bringing it back to Jim Duggan, did you ever call him Dugan by accident? Because apparently the fans used to chant Dugan at him when he was a heel.
No.
All right, we'll move on. Now,
why he didn't like that?
I think he pretended he didn't like it. But yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, next question. This is another dark one, and I don't know if you can shed light on this one.
What the hell? What'd you do? Cast a spell or something?
Hey, well, I read them as we bring them in. Mohammed asks, there are rumours that Brian Lee, the fake Undertaker, had an affair with the Undertaker's first wife when they feuded in 1994. And somehow, 4 years later, this caused him to get fired from the WWF when he went back in 1998. Could this be why he's erased from WWE history? Any truth to these rumours, Dutch?
Well, I knew Mark's first wife. Her name was Jody. I don't think I ever heard, but also I would never say one way or the other. But truthfully, I've never heard that Brian Lee had any kind of doings with Jody, because I think he respected Mark, and he also respected making Mark mad, because Mark Calloway is a romping, stomping. He can go. He can really go. Plus, he's big. And I don't think that charged him, got him fired later on in 1998 when he was there. What got him fired was he failed the drug test. That's what got him fired. And my personal belief is I think that Mark had trouble having a match with the Undertaker make believe guy. What was his name again?
Well, it was Brian Lee, but the Underfaker.
Brian Lee.
Underfaker was
Underfaker. Yeah. And I think Mark had a little bit to do with that. So, but they used, I think, from what I know, he failed a drug test big time, and so they just let him go.
Next question. Terry says, hi, Dutch. I live in Corinth. Is that how you pronounce it? Corinth, Mississippi.
Yeah, Corinth.
Corinth, Mississippi, and was a huge fan of Memphis
wrestling.
See,
if you read the Bible, you would know how to say that.
Well, I know Corinthians, but I didn't know how you said that. In the 70s and early 80s, never missed a Saturday morning show and always stayed up for Jack Eaton at the 10 o'clock newscast on Monday night for the Mid-South Coliseum results. I did attend several shows at the Coliseum and some in smaller towns like Boonville, Selma, etc. My question is, even though the small shows had sellouts, they were at small gyms or other small arenas. I know there wasn't much money made at these shows, so why did the promotion keep coming to the small towns? To try and pull folks into the bigger arenas, maybe?
No. They went hoping these towns would get better. We just kept going and kept going and kept going. And that's why you see Memphis had as long as the Memphis, the big towns that they would go to every week, unless they did well, you wasn't making any money. You go to these smaller towns, and the small towns' attendance would be in proportion to what Memphis and Louisville and Nashville drew. They would be in proportion. So if Nashville did a half a house, you'd go to a little town outside Nashville, would do half a house. Memphis do half a house. And Memphis was the barometer of the whole territory. If Memphis did well, they all did well, including the spot shows and the live event towns. But if it didn't, and one thing they could tell, if they did Memphis and they worked this big angle and it didn't draw, that angle was cut. But if we had been doing 2 tapes in a row and the first show didn't draw and you had another show based on that one, well, you had to run it. But you're going to take another butt kicking at the turnstiles because they wouldn't come. So they had it down. They understood it, and they explained it to me, and I said, yeah, whatever.
Well, this leads to a good question. It's something that I've wondered quite a lot, really. With a lot of these territories, why would they run you, some of them 6 or 7 days a week? You barely get a day off. And some of these towns could possibly have not made too much money. So why weren't they just cut and then just give... I know a couple of territories did do this, but why didn't more territories just operate on 4 or 5 days a week, separate the wheat from the chaff, get rid of the lowest paying ones, and give people a break and a better, lifestyle, quite frankly, that would probably lure bigger names to actually work for you in the first place?
That's good reasoning. I brought that up myself.
Who to?
No, to the promoters, to the owners of the companies. I'd say, why are we going to this town? It bombed last time. Why are we going back? Well, we need to fill a date. I said, hell, I can fill a date myself. I can go down to the bar and drink all night and have a better time, and won't even go in the hole making this town. So what Memphis did is, for the baby faces, they would allow them to sell their own merchandise, which was actually pretty profitable for a while. So, but I'm thinking, who would want to be a heel here? Because nobody's going to buy heel stuff. But if you go to a town, say it does, I don't know, 400 people. Well, you go out there and you put your display up, whatever you got, T-shirts, pictures, you're going to sign them or take pictures. You can have a pretty good night. You could have I don't know, $300, $400, $500 night plus the payoff. That's not too bad. But if you don't sell anything, and that's what the promoters did to get the good guys to go to the shows, because they could go there and they're in business for themselves. Promoter wouldn't even ask nothing. He wouldn't even ask what you sell, nothing. Whatever you sold, you kept. So, and that's what kept a lot of guys in territories. The Fabs, the Nightmares, the team, they were there, Danny Davis and
Ken Wayne.
Dwayne.
It's Ken Wayne.
Brother, they burn it up. When they were in Continental, burn it down. The Rock and Roll, burn it down. The Fabs, burn it down. So we would go with some shows and, it would be full because the Fabs, they had just got hot on TV, place be sold out, and they'd come back with a handful of money and hand it to somebody to keep or stick it in their trunks or whatever. And they were probably they were making more off their pictures and their photo taking and their T-shirt sales. They were making about 3 or 4 times what they were making in wrestling. So,
well, that may be true for those few teams, but for the majority of people, surely they're getting paid so much, they're selling only so much of the gimmick table. If you, instead of working 7 days, work 5, you're not spending money on a hotel, you're not spending money on rental cars or gas or whatever it is. I mean, you take a 10% pay cut for 2 days less work a week, wouldn't you?
Well, hell yeah. Hey, I didn't want to make all those towns either. When you get your booking sheet, you go, oh, God. You could tell by looking at the week what you were going to make. By looking at it. And if you had Memphis, Nashville, Louisville, Lexington, Kentucky, which they used to do, they do 10,000, 11,000 people there. But they only ran it once a month. But if those were on your booking sheet, yeah, you had a hell of a week. And I don't know why they ran those towns. They just kept running them, I guess. I don't know. I didn't own the territory.
Next question. So this comes with a video. So if you've heard of this guy...
If I had a territory, the first guy I would call back in those days would be Tony Khan. I would call him and say, give me some money and you can take this territory over. And I already got the TV. I already got the TVs lined up for you.
The Fuller family would be lining up to sell territories to Khan family at
They
that
would.
point, I'm sure.
You know, they've sold about, I don't know, they've sold three different territories that I know.
Oh,
of.
yeah. Oh, yeah. So the next question comes accompanied with a video, but if you don't know the guy or not really got any stories about him, I won't show it. But it says, my question is for Dutch, if you can remember the man who trained and transformed Harley Race into one of the toughest wrestlers, Stanislas Sabisco, who trained many young men into legitimate shooters, and Harley Race even claimed that he would be put into submission holds for Harley Race to escape. Does old school shooters have an advantage on the more new day wrestling, etc.? Anyway, we'll leave that for now. But Stanislaus Sabisco, did you ever meet him?
Never met him, but I heard about him. He was allegedly one of the toughest amateur wrestlers ever, because they had these certain moves, and like one move that the guy that he could put you in a
the sugar hold.
But he can actually pull the shoulder out of socket. And you got to be taught how to do that. And when he leaves, he can actually put it back in before he leaves if he wanted to. But to leave it out, serious injury. Serious injury. And they had different ways to hurt different people. And one guy showed me this hold. He said, if you take your thumb or your finger and say a guy sitting down, you want him to get up, if you take your finger like this and run it right here and you push up, he's going to come up with you. He has no choice. He's going to come up to try to get away from the pressure, and you don't have to pick him up. He gets himself up because he's trying to get away from the pressure. Here's a story of one guy come up to me one time, and I was talking to these girls. You know, hey, Dutch, how you doing? I'm talking to him, and he come up, a complete asshole. He said, hey, Dutch, hey, man, you know, that's fake stuff, right? Now, he would never have come up, but I think he liked one of those girls that was talking to me. And I said, what? He said, yeah, we know it's so fake, man, but I could tell he was showing off, acting up because of the girls were there. I said, give me your hand. So he put his hand up, and it's called a Grecian handlock. So I got him here. And you can try this. And if you take somebody and squeeze your fingers, these three, and you can't squeeze your little one, you could drop him to his knees, which is what I did. And I dropped him to his knees, and I said, now, what did you say? Hey, man, I'm sorry. I said, now, I want you to tell every one of these lovely young ladies here that you apologized for interrupting their conversation. And he wouldn't say it, and I put the pressure on. I'm sorry. And I kept him down on his knees, humiliating him. And I wasn't doing anything. I didn't hit him. I didn't punch him. I didn't try to take him down. And an old-time shooter showed me that move. You can try it sometimes because it hurts like hell. So, and I finally laid him up, and I said, now you need to get the hell out of here. And he left. I never saw him again. But just a little move like that with no effort really on my part. My voice never changed. I didn't, take him down or nothing. And I dropped him to his knees. Hell, I surprised myself. But he never came up to me again. And I don't know what happened to him and the girl. I guess he was too embarrassed to even talk to her later on.
You know, one thing I was always taught when I was younger and in my training days was if you really want to make someone move, get your thumb and forefinger and grab their eyelid. Let me tell you, they will move quickly.
You're not kidding.
Yeah.
You get to those sensitive parts. Here's another thing. Hook the nose.
Yeah.
If you're behind them, you hook that nose. They're going to come up. I remember I got in a fight in Bowling Green, Kentucky. This guy stood up, and I've said this before. He didn't hit me with a punch. He just clotheslined me right across the face so hard that he busted my nose, and I was bleeding. And brother, I went after him, and he's backing up, and we're going through chairs, and he's kicking chairs, and And then I finally got him down, and my partner joined in, but he was sitting on his butt, and I hooked him by the nose, and I pulled up. I swear to God, his nose had to be hanging that much at the end. So I let him go, but he would have to go home, and I bet his nose hurt for at least 2 weeks. Had to. But anyway, that throwing hands and all that stuff, that's bullcrap.
That's the stupidest thing you can do. Yeah, right, okay.
No shit.
There was a remake of Roadhouse. I said it was a series ages ago anyway. It was a film with Jake Gyllenhaal. And there's one thing that's actually very true in it, at least from the trailer. It's like, why do you slap everybody instead of punching? It's because you can break your knuckles when you're punching. In a sense, punching somebody is the nicest thing you could do to them because you can slap them, it covers more area, it keeps your hand safe, or if you're close, you can elbow them.
You know who told me that? Don Harris. He used to be one of the Harris boys. Oh, he said, don't ever punch them. I said, why? He said, open hand slap them. He said he was a bouncer. Him and his brother both, Ron, were bouncers. And when they had to get rough with somebody, they wouldn't punch them. They would just open hand slap them into next week. And sometimes it would knock them out. You've seen the new show they got on TV. It's called Slap Happy or whatever it is.
That power slap thing. It's nonsense.
And they knock each other out. He said, don't ever punch them because you got to hit them just right to knock them out. He said, if you hit them one time and, hey, I've seen women. What was Rusev's girl's name? Lana. She slapped
CJ me. Perry now.
She slapped me one time and she says, well, how do I slap you? I said, bring it in. Bring it in. Well, if I had to do it over, I would say, listen, she hit me so hard, I swear to God, she damn near knocked me down. Boy, that was the hardest slap I've ever gotten. And I will never, ever tell her, CJ Perry, to hit me again. I'll be going, oh, God, oh, God, oh, God. But, yeah, there's certain little things you need to do, and it doesn't take a lot of training for it. Anybody can do that.
We've got time for a couple, maybe one or two. We'll see how we go. Harry writes in and says, hi,
I always like when you get close to the end, you keep saying, okay, we got one more.
But I'm good at it now. I'm actually keeping it to an hour.
Okay.
I am, yeah. Hi, Dutch, long-time fan. I was just wondering if you thought Chris Jericho has damaged his legacy with time in AEW. He comes off as more of a legend in his own head and a sad old man trying to keep up with the kids now. Is that the way you see it?
Well, I think, Jericho might need to change how he's presented just a little bit. Because how old is he now?
Maybe mid-50s.
Well, he's still trying to compete with the younger guys, which he can't. Tell you the truth. Great worker, good interviewer, but I think he needs to be aware of how he's coming off because he looks like he's coasting on past exploits. And so we'll see where it goes. I think that, but if he's making the money that I think he's making, I don't blame him for trying to hang in there as long as he can.
I mean, he said recently that, people chanting, please retire, etc. He's just said, I'm not going anywhere. He says he still feels good. I mean, in fairness to Jericho, well, not fair to him, but I mean, he could do with putting on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
In fairness, because his physique isn't where it really needs to be. But other than that.
That happens when you get older. Because you slow down and your metabolism slows down too. So if you're not burning that up, you'll pack a few extra pounds on. So, but the last time I saw him, he had like a 6-pack there, but it was a 6-pack. You'd have to see it. I'd have to explain it to you.
Okay, well, we'll see how we go on. Scott says, what is your opinion of Dave Bautista's appearance this week? The weight loss is one thing, but the fashion sense is something else. My immediate thought was, in the immortal words of Dutch Mantell, not no, but hell no. Looks like he's raided Michelle Obama's closet. So have you seen the photo, Dutch?
Yes, I have.
Well, just before you comment on it, why don't I get the photo up so everyone can see? One sec. Okay, I've found it. Here you go.
Good God. My God. Yep. He's horrible looking. the body. What's he weigh now? He's got to weigh under 200.
You look really thin.
Hey, if you took his, I could tell by the face, but if you took his face off, you couldn't tell who that was at all.
Did he say like I weigh like 230 now? I was like, no. I actually thought he'd slimmed him down.
I think he's less than 230 here. That's what I think. I may be totally wrong, but I don't even. Okay, what was he going for here? Is it a movie coming out or what?
I figure that's what's going on. But he said that he is losing weight, so it opens up more role opportunities for him. Because essentially, I think if he thought he was too big, then he's only going to get secret agents and bouncer roles or whatever.
Well, I think he should put another 40, 50 pounds on there, and so at least he looks a little bit like he looked before. I think he's too thin there, and I don't know what look he was going for. That makes him look worse, that outfit he's got on.
Yeah, he's wearing a blouse, I think, and pearls.
I don't get it. What is that thing underneath the beads or the pearls? That looks like I don't know. It looks a little bit transgender to me.
It's funny, actually. I was going to say he looks a bit like Eddie Izzard. When he started turning heel in 2010 in WWE, basically his contract was up and he just stopped caring. And anyway, he started dressing like this in public, so I guess this is just his bag. I mean, I think he looks a bit like a dog's dinner. Fashion-wise, but yeah.
I don't like it. But that's me. I don't know. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, me personally, I don't much like it. So
there you go then. Well, on that basis, we're going to shut down the show now that you've trashed Batista. So thank you very much, everybody, for watching. I really hope I'm not here next week because, to be honest, I shouldn't have been here this week. So we'll just see. Mr.
James here is going to desert us. He's going to be gone for 2 weeks, possibly 3 weeks. And I'm going to be running here on my own. And I hope you'll be really loyal subscribers and watch my show. And I don't know what I'll have. I'll make it up like James does by the news that week or tell something else. Or so if I send something in and they kick it back, they demonetize us, you'll be mad, won't you?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be pretty mad, yeah.
I won't do that. No. So
okay then. Well, we don't know really what's going to happen in a few weeks that I'm gone. We've said that you may have like a guest in. I even suggested I told you, I emailed you a couple of days ago and said, how about so and so for like a guest host for a few weeks. I mean, I'm fine with that. I mean, you can now run the recording from your end to a point, or send you the instructions anyway.
I think I'll be okay. I just got to practice it a little bit.
Yeah.
And see what I can do.
Okay, then.
So what if it comes off just perfect as hell? And you say, damn, maybe I shouldn't have showed him all that stuff.
As long as I get to keep the money, I'm fine with that, baby.
Oh, okay. All right. You got it.
All right, then. So on that basis, well, there might be a couple of guests anyway. I know we promised Jake Hager ages ago, and Jake was going to come on, and then like they were just scheduling things out all over the place that we couldn't end up doing it. So I'm hoping that Jake will come back on at some point, and maybe you be the host and you can be the guest host. I mean, there's a ton of questions that came in for him. I know Downtown Bruno, he was an idea that we were going to have for a guest in my absence. Man, I tell you what, if you want views, you should try and get CJ Perry talk about that slap.
Hey, I don't know how to get a hold of her, but I would love to have her on here.
Yes, should get CJ Perry on the case.
Yeah, is she still with Mr. Rusev?
No, they've divorced now. So
And where did they meet? Did you know where they met?
Oh, I imagine in the NXT training center, I guess.
Sure did. So
on that basis, it could be Dutch on his own. It could be Dutch with guests. It could be Dutch with guest hosts, co-hosts. It could be 3 weeks of reruns of previous clips because Dutch couldn't figure out how to record. We will figure all that out together, maybe next week, depending on if my wife gives birth or not. Other than that, to say Dutch will hopefully see you on Friday. We the people.
We the people. See you then.